What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Comics Grind. I'm one of your hosts, Nico Rodriguez.
And I'm Ken, aka Comic Ken on YouTube.
And welcome back to another week of comics discussion. We are on episode number 11. We're climbing up there. We're well on our goal to hit that 50 mark. That's the
Yep.
next one. The next goal. Thank you so much for joining us here. We've Last week was an awesome discussion on the Spider-Verse stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Ken, what's going on, man? How you doing? How you feeling this week?
I'm doing all right. Is I'm basically done with work for the next few weeks, so I'm just gonna work on comics and try to get all that stuff done. I just got a commission to do and some coloring pages left for a book I'm working on.
Nice. How far are you into that coloring gig?
I'm about 2/3 into it, and hopefully I can finish faster because I actually hit a pace of 2 pages per day. Like I actually hit that at least once. Like I hit that once, but I didn't hit it the next day, so I gotta make it more consistent to hit 2 pages of coloring per day, and that way I can start making good money on it.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's kind of good that you're kind of getting into a routine because I'm sure like whenever you first started, you were kind of like trudging through it, trying to understand how to like get your routine going.
Yeah,
But yeah, hey man, two pages a day is good. That's two colored page rates a day. Somehow that you can even um, make it to three at some point maybe.
that'd be dope.
But
Like if I can find a way to make it replace my current like uh income, like
yeah,
from my job, then I can start shifting into doing comics full time. Or maybe I could just work at my job for fun for a while and just like, well, not really fun, but just like getting free lunch and just using it as a break from comics.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's that's the goal, you know. But I mean, for me, I don't know. I don't know how to make that make. I feel like at some point you just kind of need to make that leap, and the crazy thing about it is like you hear so many podcasts and stuff, um especially I think it was a creator's newsletter that I read. I forget who it was, but he basically his wife was just taking care of all the bills, for like a good handful of months while
Oh,
he just
really?
kind of worked where yeah like while he just kind of worked on his uh graphic novel, for a good 6 months to a year or something. So
Wow.
it's almost like he just like made that leap. Like the wife was cool with it, so she was like covering all the bills, and then he finally got like his feet underneath himself.
Nice.
Um, yeah, pretty awesome to to be in a situation like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's good. So that's been your comics work for the week. You've been doing the color and stuff. You've been working on your commission.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, for me, it's kind of been so at the time of this recording, in 2 days I'll be in North Carolina for Heroes Con. So I've been really just kind of prepping for that. This is my first like big, well, really my first real big out of town show. Where I'm actually having to like fly to another state because the other shows that I've done, thus far have been just maybe, to Austin or San Antonio or something, maybe max 3-4 hour drive. Um, but this one has been kind of a change because it's like I'm trying to figure out like what I need to bring, like how to like pack up my suitcase to the fullest while still bringing like clothes to wear, putting all my books in there, putting like how do I transport like my banner? It's like all,
Right.
all all these things you don't really think about until you're like, oh man, I have to go put all this stuff into a plane. Because usually like I'm used to just like throwing everything into my car and being like driving to the place
Right.
and unloading it. So that's kind of been a change of pace for sure. That and I've been re watercoloring a whole bunch of those pages that I lost. So I
Right.
got about 12 done in the last couple weeks.
Nice.
Pretty solid. I'm happy with it, and I'm in like honestly, they're like coming out even better than they were before, just because
Right.
you know every day like I'm growing as a painter. So
Yeah.
um,
Getting that
yeah,
experience.
yeah. So it's not all bad. I mean, rework sucks, but I think it's turning out even better. So it's cool stuff. It's cool stuff.
Right.
So, but other than that, man, we can go ahead and just kind of jump off into the main topic. You down for
Awesome.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So this week's main topic. So as we mentioned before, if you guys been watching the episodes, since episode one, and if you haven't, go back and check out the backlog. Um, but we kind of mentioned at the very first episode that one of the unique spins about this channel is that um, you're having perspectives coming from two different types of cartoonists. One, me, I'm self-taught and kind of just learned everything through osmosis and just practice, practice, practice. On the other hand, Ken, of course, he does all the practicing and stuff too, but he went to the Kubert School for 3 years and got his wonderful comics making degree
Yep.
from he's a QB. He's a QB.
Yep.
Um,
It's a super
so
useful degree and it makes me a lot of money.
whole ton of money.
Yep.
um, so yeah, so we kind of want to highlight that in this episode and the upcoming episodes. So we're gonna kind of use this episode as just try to just kind of do like a walkthrough for Ken's experience there at the Kubert School, and just kind of what the whole situation was like, what he went through, who he met, things that happened. In this first episode is basically going to be year one. So Batman Year One, that's what it is today for the QB, also known as Ken. Um, so Ken, man, tell me a little bit about how you found out about the Kubert School. Were you always interested in it, or did somebody kind of mention it off the cuff and you were like, "Hey, this sounds like something I want to do because I already draw all the time"? How did
Yeah.
your interest kind of rise?
Well, my original intention was to go to SCAD. Uh, I looked up like comic schools that focused only on comics in the entire country, and there was only like maybe 3 here, and then 1 in Canada, and then there was the Gobelin in France. So I was just like, all right, well, let me go over my options, and then SCAD was the only one that had like a full ride scholarship where it would just pay the whole tuition if you had a decent enough portfolio. And I looked at these two girls at the time that were they go by Ellie Oli Art online, and they work for Disney right now, but they were the last two at the time to get the full ride scholarship based on their artwork, and they're just really great colors. Like they're really great digital painters, and I was just like, all right, if they can do it, I can do it. And no, that just that just didn't work out at all. So then I looked for other schools. Like years later, I looked for other schools to go to, and the Kubert School was the only school that focused only on comics 24/7 every day of the week. So I was just like, all right, let me go there, and that'll be what will take me to the next level, getting some comics work. So
Yeah,
the
yeah. I mean,
sorry, the Kubert School it was it required a portfolio, but it wasn't a full ride scholarship. I didn't mind because I was just like, any school that focuses only on comics, that's the one I'll go to.
right. And you were drawn because I've been seeing you post some of your like old drawings from like when you were 12, 13 years old. So I mean you had been drawing for a good, I mean since you were little kid, right?
Oh yeah. I used to just be like drawing Scooby Doo and all that, Pokemon and all that stuff. But I decided I wanted to make a career after I first saw Naruto on on Toonami as a kid. So I was just like, all right. And when I found out it was based off of a manga, off of a comic book from Japan, I was just like, all right, let me do that. Let me make comics for a living.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So whenever you okay, so you applied, you got in, right? And was it like were you like do you remember if you're like waiting a long time, you're like anticipating like where's that email? Where's that email? Or did it kind of come pretty quickly?
No, I was waiting for it for a while. I was just like, all right, did I get the scholarship? I sent my portfolio. I was just like, oh man, I was just like really anxious, just waiting to see like, okay, what did I like? How did I score? How did I rank or whatever? And I got the incoming first year scholarship, the Joe Kubert scholarship, and I was really happy about that. And it was like, okay, now I know for sure I'm going to this school because
Hmm.
I know that my work is good enough to to at least get inside.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, that's awesome. So what was the so you flew there, right? I'm assuming
Yeah,
you didn't. Yeah.
I flew there. I flew to I think I flew to Baltimore because that's where my relatives were, and then
Mm,
we went to New York, and then we went to Jersey from there.
okay. Were you like super excited, like super antsy, like you're like I'm about to make it, you know? I'm about to go to this giant like Hogwarts type school, but I'm going to be doing comic art all day. Were you like super excited about it?
Yeah, I was really excited. That was like that was the main feeling, and I was also just very assured. Like I was just like, this is where I should be. This is
Yeah.
where this is what I've wanted to do for so long. I was 22 at the time. I just been in and out of jobs up until that point, and yeah, I just saved up my money and finally bought all the materials to go out there.
Yeah, so whenever you stayed in there's like dorm. Is it was it like a dorm, right? That was like very close to the actual school.
It was a big house, a
Big
big
house, big
ass
house.
house
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was 3 stories, and we call it the Kubert School Mansion. It was the dormitory where all the guys stayed, and if it was full to capacity at, it would be upwards of like 30 plus guys and all sharing like one house, um, and that's where I stayed for the duration. Actually, we'll have a video about that coming out soon, showing what the inside of the Cooper School looks like. And hopefully, people stay tuned to my Comic Ken channel so that they can check it out.
Ooh, it's gonna be good stuff because there's not really much content out there, right? About like the inside of the mansion and everything.
I checked last week, and there's literally nothing.
Wow.
Even the information that I found when I was about to go to the school like 5 years ago, there's there like even that's been erased, like it's just gone. So the only information that you can see is what the outside of it looks like.
Hmm. Yeah. Damn, that's gonna be cool. I can't wait to see that actually.
Nice.
Um, so your first classes, like, what was do you remember, like, your very first class was? Like, whenever you went to school for the first day, was it, like, how course was it? Do you remember?
I think the first class I had was narrative art with Fernando Ruiz, and he works for Archie Comics, or he did, and I think now he does work with Pixie Tricks Comics,
Hmm,
and he had a great Archie style and a really cool cartoony style, and he would just show us like how to arrange things in a narrative storytelling format so that everything would make sense in your work. And that was my favorite class of that year because he
hmm,
was the most strict, or at least he was the most he had the highest standards for students in class. And so I would try the most in that class because it felt like, okay, this is somebody I have to impress, or somebody that actually holds a standard for the type of work that you're producing. So I was just like, all right, I would try like really hard in his class, and because because the alternative was doing bad in his class, and then you'd have to face him, and then you just like look down because if your work's just not up there, like up to snuff, it would just feel really bad. So critique days were really nice in that class, and that was the first one I had at the Kubert School.
Yeah, that's pretty. It sounds like it's a really good course to like start with, and I feel like that course probably. I mean, do you think of the stuff, or do you even know if you're thinking about the stuff that you learned back then? Because, um, like, did you have more like narrative storytelling type courses, like narrative storytelling 2 or 3, or was that like the main narrative one, like where it's like storytelling, composition type stuff?
Yeah, it was storytelling composition type stuff in that class. And we had 2 and 3, but that would be like year 2 narrative, which was taught by
Mhm.
somebody else, and then year 3 narrative, which was taught by somebody else. Um,
Gotcha.
so the other classes would be like stuff like lettering, digital coloring, animation, um, I forget what it was, design. It would be all different kinds of stuff like methods and materials, which is like, okay, we use ink one day, or we use like paints the next day, or something like that, and we
Mm.
just do different things based on the class. And it would be 10
That's cool.
assignments overall every week.
10 assignments.
Yeah.
So you guys actually painted your first year?
No, I don't think we painted that much. I think if anything, the most we did first year was ink wash.
Mm,
Yeah. So we
gotcha.
just water down the inks and paint like that.
Yeah. Did you like your that first class that you had, were did you kind of like make friends right off the bat with some of the other guys in there, or was it kind of like everyone's kind of like competing against each other type of thing?
No, it wasn't like super competitive environment. The first guys I saw there were some of the last guys I saw when we finished school. Um like the first guys I saw there, I made friends with them, and yeah, that's they stuck around through all 3 years, and then some of the other people like just dropped off in the first week. Usually high schoolers because they were just weak hearted, and and
Mhm.
there was uh some people who drop off like after the first year because they would just get fucked up emotionally or something like that. Like there would always be something that would happen in the first year or the second year to like deter them from coming back. If you finished
Yeah.
second year, you're most likely to come back for third year. But if you didn't
Mhm.
finish first year, then it was a toss up whether you come back at all.
Yeah, I hear, well, I hear a lot of cases where it's like people will go in for like the first year, learn the stuff, and then jump out and like go like straight to start like working and stuff. Was that the case, or is could you potentially do that? Could you like go first year, like say you already have like a good drawing ability, can you kind of go in, learn some basics, and then jump out and start working? Did you see that happen a lot, or not really?
Well, they said like, oh yeah, some students start getting work straight out of first year, and I wanted to be one of those students. Um, and there was a guy that worked. Usually, I would see it where students would go first year, second year, and then start getting work, and they were like, oh, I don't have to finish out. I could just because the whole point was to give you enough professional skills to be able to work in the industry. And so by second year, if you could survive that, then then you'd definitely be professional enough to start getting work on the outside.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's always interesting because I mean I know like a infamous quote unquote case is like Ed Piskor from Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. He's always talking about like he went in for a year, but then he wanted to go and like work and start making money, so he just jumped out and seemed to do pretty well for him. But
Yeah, like you
yeah,
don't have to
it's
go
this
through
is like the
all.
exception case. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you don't have to go through all 3 years. Like the first year will be more than enough for some people.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 for sure. So, styling wise, like, So you went in, you kind of already did you already kind of have like that, you know, more animated, that manga influence? You kind of already had that from the beginning, right? You didn't kind of did you pick that up at all during the school during like that first year, or were you kind of already like, I already know my style, I just want to like perfect that now and stay within that realm?
So what I was doing, like, I was definitely doing a lot of animated art like style before going into the school, but then going to the school showed me like how people were actually creating a more comic booky style, like David Finch, or just like that more fully rounded, like everything shadow and like shaded, and I was trying to emulate that more throughout my school years. Um, Instead of and trying to break away more from that anime style, that anime aesthetic. But whenever it came time for like a quick and fast deadline, I would just revert back to like even below an anime style, I would go to more of a cartoony style, that something simply rendered that I could get out very quickly. Like if you think like Gendy Tartakovsky, with like his very simple shapes that are also like really effective in terms of cartooning, I would go to that kind of style to get to do
Mhm.
faster work.
Right. What about your classmates? Were they big bombastic superhero style, or do they have some like more like indie-ish, alternative cartoonist or anything like that?
Yeah, it was a vast range
Mm,
of different styles. There was a guy who would do like really cool like cartoons, and he had a really cartoony style that was just like he could caricature people in a perfect cartoon, but you can tell exactly who it is based on the cartoon that he did, and
mhm.
it was really solid. And then there would be somebody who do like a really painterly style, that he could do like concept artwork if he wanted to. It seemed like that was what he was meant to do, like, you know. And then you'd see like a pure anime style where they're not fucking around, they're just doing, this is anime and nothing else, you know. So it was a
Yeah,
wide range of different styles.
that's pretty cool because I mean, I know whenever I think about, the Kubert School, I'm always thinking about like, you know, typical Marvel style or typical kind of comic-y style. But I guess, now that we're kind of like the landscape is kind of expanding, you're going to kind of get more of those different styles in there now, which I guarantee probably didn't exist, 10, maybe 10 years ago. It was a lot of guys just trying to all draw like Jim Lee.
Right.
Um, so that's actually pretty cool to hear. Um, during that first year, like, were you monetarily like how were you? Were you working at the time, or were you just kind of like trying to make ends meet? Were you maybe picking up a few freelance things or anything? Like how were you able to, because that, obviously that's one of the things that, you know, everyone watching and stuff out there, who's maybe thinking about going to school or um aspiring to kind of do some kind of educational thing within the creative field. But the issue is always like, okay, you go dedicate a whole bunch of time and money to art school, but like how are you kind of surviving on the back end?
Right.
um where did you have a job or anything, or how was life outside of the classroom in that first year?
No, I didn't have any kind of job. I had saved up enough, and then my parents would send me money sometimes to help me get through the year. And
Yeah.
a lot of the guys that would work, they would only work on weekends whenever there was time to do to work. But that was very few guys, and most of them, it was very difficult to turn in their assignments on time because they had a part-time job to make ends meet. Or, well, not even to make ends meet, some of them wouldn't even need the job, and they would just get the job to have money on the side and whatnot. But it would distract too much from their work, and their work would suffer on that front. So I just had a lot saved up from working beforehand, and
Hmm.
then my parents and stuff helped me out with money on that.
Gotcha. So that, I mean, did you, outside of class, like obviously you guys are working nonstop still, right? Like, when you get out of class, you're going home to work on your assignment, or to the house to work on your assignments. Was it like all work, no play outside of the classroom?
No, there was definitely a lot of play, a lot of crazy play, man. But no, the guys that were all work no play, you never saw them. They would be up in their room immediately after school. You never even like, if you saw them, it was kind of like seeing a ghost or a mythological creature. It was like, oh hey, there's that guy. Like I don't know what his name is, but there's that guy. And they'd be up in their room just like working the whole time. Most of them would have like the best work, or they would turn their stuff in on time all the time. But for the most part, we'd finish school, come back home, eat, and relax a little bit, talk, maybe hang out in the common area, and just like talk a little bit, or watch a movie, or just watch something on TV, anime or something, and then just go back up to your room and start working, and just keep working until dinner time. Make some dinner, and then chat a little bit more, back up
Mm,
to the room, and then work. That was my schedule basically throughout all 3 years. People would be playing
yeah,
like down in the common area, first year especially, because we were allowed to have our desks out in the area, but that was banned in the second year. Um,
mm,
People would be playing like Spider-Man PS4 all the time. Back when it was PS4, they'd be playing Spider-Man. We'd have Friday Night Smash. We'd be playing like Smash Ultimate on Friday nights, and those were good times. And then whenever there was like a year-end party or something, we'd have like a Friendsgiving or a Christmas party or something like that, or a Halloween
yeah,
party. And yeah, those were good times as well.
nice. Yeah, that's it's cool to hear because like I know like at my age now, right? If I went to go do Kubert School or something like that, like probably those guys that were like all work no play were probably the older guys. I bet, because they're probably
No,
like no, they weren't.
no, not necessarily. Like some of them were like the younger guys that were just like really socially shy and
Hmm.
kind of awkward to come down and talk with a lot of the other guys. The older guys, you would see them whenever there's like a meeting or something like that. Or they'd be outside smoking.
Hmm.
What kind of smoking is anyone's
Tobacco,
guess. Like yeah.
tobacco.
But yeah, a lot of the older guys, yeah, it would be pretty similar. Like the older guys and then the younger guys that were like shy,
Mhm.
they would be up in their rooms for the most part.
Yeah, because I know. I mean, I know. Like I'm saying, if I were to do it now, I'd try to get get the work done. No, and not try to like screw around. And when I was doing my undergraduate, there was a lot of screwing around going on, and um, luckily I was able to get through it and make good grades. But had a ton of friends that just screwed around way too much,
Oh
and it's
yeah, there
like,
was.
dude, you're freaking dropping 40 grand a semester on a school,
Yep.
or 30, whatever it was, and like you're just not going to it. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, there was tons of guys like that. They would just be playing video games the whole day. Like they would play video games so religiously, you'd think they're here to get good at the video game and not their
Mhm.
assignments. The assignments would just be an afterthought, and
Right.
they would be the ones that were screwed towards the end of the school year. And I would just laugh. I would just like look at
Yeah.
them and be like, "You fucked it all up, man." But the older guys, man, some of them would be up to like 60. I saw like 40, 45, 50 even. But that
Cool.
guy looked like he was 30, I don't know, 35 or something.
Mm.
Uh, but it
That's
was
cool though
all
that there's some older
ranges of
cats
ages.
like that though. That's
Yeah,
cool.
all ranges of ages. And the high schoolers were usually like kind of weak of heart, and usually they would like leave in the first week, or they would just not do that well because they were just out of high school and they weren't used to being in a new environment. And then the guys like my age around their 20s would do all right, but then we get distracted by fun party stuff and going out and doing other things. And then the guys in their 30s, I think, did the best because they were just more focused. They would hang out with us every once in a while, but they weren't really getting caught up in all the fucking like social drama and all that stuff. They would just be like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm too old for this. Let me go fucking work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did this could be a question for the next one or something, but were there like any like history of comics classes that you took, or was it all strictly drawing? Like what I'm saying is like, were you able to kind of like look at a lot of new material that you may have not known, or like kind of study material like that? Or was it
Yeah.
mostly like, hey, here's an anatomy book, stuff like that? Like, were they like, hey, this is like history of comics or something? Were they giving you like new material to like read and check out, or not
Yeah,
really?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a guy, this teacher, what was his name? Alec Stevens. And he was the design teacher. And so every week, every class that we had him, he would bring in a new piece from an older artist from history and whatnot, and he would tell us about this artist and like tell us about their life. And he was like, it wasn't even history of comics, it was just he was so into the history of uh the artists and the writers that he would just tell us what happened, and some of it he was actually personally there for. And
Hmm.
he would just tell us about these guys that worked in the industry, some of them that killed themselves, and like, or who went on to like success and um all that stuff. And then uh he would post their art on the back wall, and then at the end of the year, um we get the art, or no, he gave us like printouts of their art, and then
Hmm.
at the end of the year we would trade them around.
Hmm.
Like I would
That's
trade
pretty cool.
like some people had like a Mobius piece, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want this Mobius. Let me trade that for a Harvey Kurtzman or something like that, or let me trade that for a Wally Wood, or like we just kind of traded at the end of the year.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, I always wondered that because I mean I know like a lot of my learning has come through just like reading and like looking at artwork and just kind of like studying it from that perspective.
yeah,
Um, so you go through your first year. Was there like a final exam, quote unquote? Was there a final project at the end of that first year? And
yeah.
if so, what was it?
The main final project was the final narrative project and the final animation project. There was a final project in every single class, but they gave it to us weeks, like, or even months before the final class, so that we had time to get it all done. So it was kind of relaxed but also pressured at the same time, because we had to do 10 different assignments, but we had more space and time to get those done.
Hmm.
So yeah, for different classes we had different like final projects, and that was the most fun because a lot of it was our own work that we could try to make, like our own, create our own stuff.
Hmm.
um but for narrative art, for Fernando Ruiz's classes, it was like a 5-page X-Men story, and you had to draw like Wolverine and Cyclops and Storm and all that in a 5-page story, in different backgrounds and environments and stuff like that. It was to test all your skills that you learned throughout the year. And that was
Hmm.
the best summation of what the final assignment in that class was.
Damn. Yeah, I can. Like that's already like bringing me anxiety to like, oh man, like I got to draw all these characters, like, and he's gonna like judge me here. It's like,
Yep.
man, what if it's like too wonky for him? You know, like what if perspective is out? Um,
He would judge you based on how well you could carry the story rather than how
mhm,
well you drew it. And
yeah.
then some people who were actually like really solid the whole year round, or who were just normally very good in general, some people just like phoned it in, and not on purpose. It was just that they had other assignments that they cared about more, or
Mhm.
that they just ran out of time, and it just ended up coming out not as good as they wanted. I put all my focus into that assignment and then kind of let the other ones kind of slide. The other one that I considered important to me was the animation assignment, but that one didn't come out the best. It was just like,
That's
oh,
pretty
all
tough.
right.
Were you given scripts for both for that for the X-Men project and for the animation project? Like, were you given scripts, or was he just like, "Hey, just do a 5-page story with the X-Men"?
The X-Men story had a script. It was a Marvel
Mhm.
style script, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah,
then the animation project was freeform. You could just come up with something that you wanted to do.
and you just like animated it like a few seconds or something, or
We did storyboards first, and then
mm,
we animated, trying to get to like just as much as we could do and apply as much as we learned throughout the year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's man. It's crazy because like whenever I'm doing my books and stuff, it's kind of like, well, at the end of the day, like I want to please the customer and stuff, but I want to like do something that I like and something that I think is good. So like having to like draw all this stuff and like have a teacher just like go through and just wreck shop on it, it's like
Yeah.
damn. So we're so what if you wanted to do like say you want to do like a 9 panel grid style thing, or you do like a 3 by 3 grid for the whole book, or I'm sorry for like the whole 5 pages
What are you,
with
insane?
something like that, huh?
I said, what are you,
Well, I mean,
insane?
well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if like somebody's, if you're like a more of like a cartoonist, right? You're kind of thinking about like that 3 by 3 grid. Are you, if you did that, would that be acceptable, or is it something that like they would want to be like more of like a big splash page type stuff with what I'm saying? Like, were they were they picky in terms of like the paneled format, or were they? Yeah.
They would critique you on that if you tried to do a 9 panel grid, but it didn't match the tone of the story. Like
Mhm,
with Watchmen or something like that, where it's all 9 panels, almost all of it.
mhm.
It was like a pacing type thing where they're trying to get
Yep.
you in a rhythm of the story and whatnot. But with the X-Men story, it was like, okay, this needs to be a big moment, so give that more space.
Mhm.
This is a smaller moment, so give that less space. So it wouldn't work as a 9 panel grid. I don't think they gave you a specific amount of panels to do per page.
Yeah.
Some of my pages I think had like 7 panels, some of them had only two. Um, but it was whatever fit the story and whatever the story needed. And I didn't try to force it into like a 9 panel grid.
Mhm.
If anyone did that, I'd and made it work, I'd clap for them because a 9 panel grid is 9 different drawings with 9 different backgrounds. If
Yeah.
you're drawing all that, so yep,
Yeah. Well, sometimes like you'll see a 9 panel grid, but it's like I've seen to where it's like a splash page, but they like split it up into like 9 panels. Have you ever seen that?
yeah. I was like,
Okay,
you
I can
said
hear
a
you.
splash page. Okay, good.
Yeah. So like a guy by the name of Jesse Lonergan. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
So he's a really cool artist, cartoonist guy. Makes some really unique, interesting books, but he does a lot of stuff with like panel design a lot.
Uh huh.
And you'll see some of his pages, like it'll be like he'll take like a typical splash page, right? Say like a rocket flying through space or something, but he'll take that. Jesse Lonergan, if you ever get a chance, check him out. But he does this really unique, interesting panel design a lot. Sometimes he'll take a splash page and he'll like section that splash page up into like 9 panels.
Hmm.
Um, so it's almost like it's like one page, but it looks like 9 panels.
Right.
Cool stuff. Yeah, but
Yeah. I actually
as
I can
mhm.
show the X-Men project that I did. I can do like a screen
Yeah.
present just to
Do you want me
give a
to
visual and
I can do the like the screen layout type thing. I don't know. I know we've done this before, but let's
yeah,
see
I
if
got
I
it
can
right
do
here. Let
this.
me so if I share it like this, do you see anything?
One second. Yep, there it is.
Awesome. So you can see what I'm showing on the screen right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's like so we got the Wolverine up there in the front. These are
Yeah.
these are your these are your pencils.
Yeah. So it was all pencil pages. You didn't need to ink or do anything like that. That was how all the assignments went for the entire year. And so I'm just gonna like we can just keep talking. I'm just scrolling through just to see,
Yeah,
just to show like what it was like.
yeah. That's cool, man. So they gave you basically like a paragraph of like script, since you said it was
Yeah,
Marvel style.
it would be like, okay, the X-Men are transported to the Savage Lands, and they have to
Hmm.
fight Sauron. And Sauron comes and takes Wolverine, and Storm gets him back, and all that stuff. And so then they beat Sauron, and then like Arcade, who's the one who's like taking control of the danger room. He's changing the danger level so that they go to different like universes and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So that's what happens in the story, basically in the Marvel style script that we're using.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it's pretty cool. Now, from where you started year one to where you ended up at the end of year one, as far as compositionally and narrative storytelling, did you see your progression? Did you kind of feel it whenever you were drawing this 5 page short?
Yeah, I felt like what it felt like was at the time I was drawing it, it didn't feel like a progression. It felt like I was it felt like I was pushing myself to my limits with the project, but there were
Hmm.
certain things that I knew worked sequentially, and there were certain things that didn't work sequentially. So I wouldn't do those things, and I would do what worked. So like you start to get that intuition, that like that artist intuition of what works and what doesn't when you're drawing your work.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so that was
yeah,
the
and
end of the 5 pages.
and you've probably like, let's see if we can get back here. Cool. Yeah, man. Thanks for showing that. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, and I think it a lot of it. I know at least for me, a lot of like the repetition. Once you start repeating stuff a lot, you kind of develop like a second sense for it. So it's like
Yep.
almost like as you're drawing, you kind of know what needs to go where because you've done it so much. Like
Right.
you're gonna need less reference. You're gonna need, less kind of doodles on the side or something. But you kind of like, you start to pick it up and you start to understand, and like you can kind of flow a little bit more. So that I'm sure by the end of year one, you maybe felt some of that.
Right.
Um, that's cool. So at the end of year one, were you like, hey, I made the right decision for my life? Like, did you were you excited about it and everything, and kind of felt that you were progressing towards your dream?
I knew that at the beginning of year one. I was
Yeah.
uh I was like, yeah, this is the right choice. This is the right step. This is what I need to do to get to the next level, because I knew I knew I could only get so far on my own, and then from there it would just be a really long slog to learn more skills.
Hmm.
But I knew if I went to the school, or if I went to get some kind of in-person training, uh then I'd be able to take my skills to the next level. So I was just like, I know this is the next logical step. So it felt right from the very beginning.
Right. Good, man. So your time and money went to a good place, at least for that first year. I'm kind of anxious now to see what went down in that second year, man. It's
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know, first year is A New Hope. Second year is Empire Strikes Back.
It really
That's where
is.
all the shit that's where all the shit goes down. That's where you find out if you break it or make it. Luckily for Ken, we already know the end of the story. Ken made it, but there might be some trials and tribulations to get there.
Right.
Um, but other than that, man, that was good, man. Do you have anything else any last things to kind of say on that first year?
No, the first year was dope. So uh we'll discuss more in the next videos.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Ken, where can the good people out there find you?
Y'all can find me at the Comic Ken on Twitter, and you can read my comic Air Rider, High School Hero on Global Comics, and oh yeah, you can also find me on Instagram at Comic Ken.
Awesome. You guys can find me at Nico_writes on Instagram, on Twitter. You can follow me on my Substack at nicorodriguez.substack.com. Posting a whole bunch of process stuff on all those platforms, whole bunch of sketches and things like that. So give me a follow if you want to check out some of my stuff. Other than that, we will be back next week with part 2 of this Kubert School dissection from Ken's perspective. So you don't want to miss that. If you guys have any interest in the Kubert School, or maybe you've went to an art school yourself, or you're an aspiring creator who thinks that maybe they want to experience something like that, we'd love to kind of see your comments down below, and let us know what you're thinking, and how you guys are kind of liking the series that we're doing here, going over Ken's Kubert School background. But thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.